You know, um, you know that exact gut sinking feeling? Like you're standing there, maybe in a meeting, or maybe just having coffee with a friend, and a sentence leaves your mouth. And right away, before the last syllable is even hanging in the air, your stomach just completely plummets.
Oh, yeah. Instant regret.
Exactly. You've just said something reckless or, I don't know, maybe just thoughtless. And you can practically hear the sound of your own hard-earned inner peace just shattering into a million pieces on the floor.
It is such a universally agonizing human experience.
Hmm.
I mean, you spend days, maybe weeks, cultivating this sense of calm, trying to be grounded in your life, and then bam.
One impulsive comment.
Right, one comment, and it just completely obliterates it. Suddenly, you're replaying the conversation at 3 in the morning, your heart rate is up, and your peace is entirely gone.
It's like we walk around carrying this like fragile glass sculpture of tranquility. And then for some inexplicable reason, we just decide to start juggling it. We just can't seem to stop ourselves from talking, even when it actively harms us.
We really can't. It's a compulsion.
And that exact dilemma is what we are unpacking today in this deep dive. We're looking at a radical roadmap from a really fascinating philosophical and spiritual text about the profound power of silence. And the goal here is to explore this core premise, how to stop thinking so much and start truly feeling just by being quiet. So, okay, let's unpack this, because this isn't just about biting your tongue, right?
No, not at all, which sounds simple on the surface, but it requires a complete shift in how we process our own existence. It's about dismantling the internal machinery that makes you want to speak in the first place, a step-by-step roadmap from taming that outer chatter to, well, discovering a really deep, mystical inner stillness.
Right, because the overarching philosophy we're looking at today, it argues that the predominant cause of disharmony in our lives is, quite simply, excessive talk, which is a bold claim.
Yes.
But when you look at how ancient spiritual traditions have treated speech, you see this pattern everywhere. Like, take Jainism, for example. The text mentions their principle of harmlessness, ahimsa. And it isn't just a mental exercise. Some followers actually tie a small piece of cloth over their lips.
Which is brilliant in its utility, really. It functions as this constant, tangible friction against the habit of talking.
A physical reminder.
Exactly.
Mm.
By putting a physical obstacle over the mouth, it forces this micropause.
Mm-hmm.
It interrupts the automatic circuit between a thought forming in your brain and your vocal cords actually executing it.
Right.
And in that pause, the person is forced to evaluate, like, is what I'm about to say actually going to cause harm? Because words have this immense, almost physical power to impact the human nervous system, both yours and the person you're speaking to.
It totally shifts the paradigm of how we view communication. It makes me think about our daily allotment of words, like a strict financial budget. You know, if you only had, say, 100 words to spend every single day, you'd be incredibly careful about where you invested them.
Oh, absolutely. You'd hoard them.
Yeah. But because words feel free, we just constantly overspend on useless chatter. And to help with this, the text introduces this incredible 3-question mystic filter to evaluate our words before we speak. You're supposed to ask yourself, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?
And what's fascinating here is if you earnestly apply that filter to your daily life, the results are actually deeply uncomfortable.
Oh, I bet.
Think about the mechanics of it. A lot of things we say might technically be true, but they aren't kind.
Right. Or maybe they are kind, but they are completely unnecessary.
Exactly. If a sentence has to survive all 3 of those checkpoints, you very quickly discover that like 90% of everyday conversation is just filler.
Yeah, I can personally vouch for that discomfort. I was in a team meeting yesterday, and I threw in this deeply sarcastic comment about a project deadline. And in the moment, it felt great.
It always does in the moment.
Right. It was technically true. The deadline was a mess. It felt necessary for my ego because it got a laugh. But was it kind? Not at all. It just added cynicism to the room.
Yeah, it's just the whole energy.
It really does. If I had used that filter, I would have just sat there in silence. But that brings up a really crucial question. If I know that making a snarky comment is unnecessary, and I know it ultimately causes disharmony, why do I do it? What is behind this inexplicable automatic impulse to just run our mouths?
Well, if we look at the psychology of that impulse, the sources identify excessive speech as essentially a primary symptom of the ego.
Oh, okay, the ego.
Yeah, the ego has this insatiable desire for recognition and attention. When we're constantly talking or complaining or, interjecting,
Right.
we aren't actually trying to communicate information.
Demanding recognition.
Exactly. It's a glaring expression of self-importance. Every time we interrupt someone or offer an unsolicited opinion, we are effectively shouting, "Look at me. My perspective matters."
I have to push back on that a little bit, though. Just playing devil's advocate for everyone listening. Isn't talking just how human beings relate to one another? I mean, we're a social species.
Sure we are.
So if we just stop sharing our thoughts and sit around in silence, running everything through a three-point filter, aren't we just going to isolate ourselves? How does becoming a mute build a rich inner life?
That's the tension, isn't it? But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's not about becoming cold or entirely disconnected from society. It's about the ratio of signal to noise. On the spiritual path, humility is the absolute foundation.
Right, okay.
You cannot cultivate a rich, observant inner world if your ego is constantly broadcasting outward, taking up all the available oxygen. Restraining the ego through quietness brings a very specific poise and balance.
So it's like putting the ego on a strict diet. You're starving it of the constant external validation it craves.
Precisely. And this is especially critical when we look at the modern world. The text makes this striking observation about our modern epidemic. All this meaningless, ego-driven talk feeds an already hyperactive mind. It clogs it up.
Like a feedback loop.
Yes, the world is loud on the outside, and because we naturally mirror our environment, our internal monologue becomes incredibly loud, incredibly fast, and totally fragmented.
Which directly links to the rise in modern mental health struggles, right? Like severe anxiety, nervous breakdowns. We're just so overstimulated.
Because without silence, our connection to our interior energy is entirely lost. It makes it incredibly difficult to cope with just basic daily life. You're essentially leaking psychological energy everywhere.
Okay, let's talk about that leaking energy concept. Because if talking acts as a leak for our interior energy, what actually happens to our mind and body when we successfully plug that leak? I understand mental exhaustion, but the perfect master's teaching here claims that talking physically expends a massive amount of our precious energy.
It does. It's a massive drain.
But honestly, just vibrating my vocal cords doesn't feel like running a marathon, you know? How does just speaking drain my physical energy reserves?
It's a great question because we take the act of speaking for granted. But if you look at the neurological load required to formulate and deliver speech, it is staggering.
Really? Just regular talking?
Yeah, you aren't just vibrating vocal cords. Your prefrontal cortex is constantly scanning the environment. It's predicting how the other person will react, filtering your vocabulary, regulating your tone, managing your facial expressions. It is a massive, highly complex cognitive operation running constantly in the background.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. It's like having way too many tabs open on your web browser.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah, like if you have a computer and one tab is streaming a 4K video, another is running heavy design software, and you have like 50 tabs of articles you're never going to read just sitting there, all of that is quietly draining the computer's battery.
Overheating the process.
Exactly. The computer might look fine on the outside, but the fan is screaming. So complaining about traffic, gossiping, rehearsing arguments in the shower, those are all background tabs draining your battery.
That is exactly it. And wasting this immense cognitive load on useless chatter is an extravagance that a serious spiritual aspirant simply cannot afford. Not if they want spiritual enlightenment. You need that battery fully charged.
So assuming I manage to keep my mouth shut, I apply the filter, I close the 50 useless browser tabs. Where does all that conserved battery power actually go?
When you stop exhausting your energy on outward broadcasting, you naturally direct it inward. That redirected energy is used to calm the turbulent, reactive waves of the mind. Once the brain isn't constantly formulating its next sentence, you're able to gather your attention and actually concentrate better.
Okay, concentrate on what?
Well, the text refers to gathering this attention at what they call the eye center.
The eye center. Okay, why focus there?
When you sit in silence and gently focus your internal gaze upward and inward toward that center, it helps shift the brain. It's a physical trigger to tell the nervous system we are no longer engaging with the outside world.
You're literally pulling the plug on external input.
Yes. And this is where a crucial practice comes into play called Simran. Simran is a deeper quietening of the mind, usually through repetition or a mantra, Because we all know that just sitting quietly doesn't magically stop your brain from chattering.
Oh, absolutely not. The moment I sit in silence, my brain suddenly remembers like an embarrassing thing I did in the third grade or starts making a grocery list.
Exactly. The brain hates a vacuum.
Yeah.
So Simran involves giving the mind a specific internal focus to mechanically override that default chatter. But here is the key. This profound internal silence, this quiet contemplation that helps our awareness and discrimination grow, it's only made possible after practicing outward physical silence.
Because the momentum of the day is just too strong. You have to break slowly.
Precisely. You cannot spend 10 hours a day engaging in chaotic and ego-driven arguments and then expect to sit down, close your eyes, and instantly drop into profound stillness. The outer discipline prepares the ground for the inner experience. And this helps us absorb daily lessons and just, evolve.
Which naturally brings up the ultimate destination of this whole process. We've conserved our energy, we've gathered our attention at the eye center, we've used Simran to quiet the internal monologue. Once the mind is finally truly quiet, what is it that we are supposed to be feeling or listening to?
This is where we cross the threshold into pure feeling and experiencing. When the restless mind is finally cured by perfect silence, you become capable of hearing the voice of God, which is referred to in the text as the Shab.
The Shab.
Yes,
Shab.
precious Shabs. It's described as the soothing balm.
I want to break down this idea of the Shab because the concept of an inner sound can feel a little abstract to someone just starting out.
Let's use a metaphor directly from the sources. They compare it to a pool of water. Just as the troubled, choppy waters of a pool hinder us from seeing our own reflected image, our inner and outer chatter hinders us from hearing this divine voice.
Oh, I love that.
Right. Your inner and outer chatter masks the signal. Perfect silence is what stills the water. It cancels out the chaos of the world so you can finally feel that underlying current of peace.
So, what does this all mean? To summarize the climax of the text here, the point of meditation isn't just to sit in the dark and be proud of yourself for not talking. It's to become so united with this inner sound that it literally pulls the soul up to higher levels of consciousness.
Yes, it is the ultimate shift. The masters describe this final phase as an evolution from forced silence to natural surrender. Through persistent meditation and experiencing this immense grace and kindness firsthand, you have a realization that can sound daunting. At first, you finally grasp your own insignificance.
Grasping our insignificance. See, to a modern ear, realizing you are insignificant sounds, I don't know, deeply depressing.
But it's actually the exact opposite. When the ego is humbled by that vastness, it sparks such intense love and gratitude that it automatically renders us completely speechless.
You literally lose the desire to form words.
Exactly. We move from forcing silence to naturally desiring nothing else but to savor that mystical silence, to tune into that celestial voice and just embrace eternal bliss. The desire to chatter, to complain, to assert your own importance, it vanishes. You have successfully stopped thinking, and you are finally truly feeling.
What an incredible trajectory. Let's recap this journey for everyone listening because the progression is just so practical. We started all the way out on the messy surface of our daily lives with the outward discipline of zipping our lips.
And using the true, kind, necessary filter.
Right, which starves the ego and conserves a massive amount of energy. Then that saved energy is turned inward to calm the mind's troubled waters through Simran, ultimately allowing us to stop thinking and start truly feeling profound gratitude and bliss.
It is the ultimate shift from the exhausting noise of the ego to true awareness.
So we want to leave you with a direct challenge for today. In your very next conversation, whether it's on a Zoom call, at dinner, or even texting, force yourself to run your words through that three-question filter. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Notice how much you suddenly don't say and observe the energy you save.
And as you observe that saved energy, consider this final lingering question inspired by the sources. If the ultimate expression of love and spiritual connection renders us entirely speechless, what does that say about the limits of our language? What if the most profound thing you can communicate to the world today is what you choose to keep entirely to yourself?
Something to really sit with as you go about your day. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take that thought with you and most importantly, enjoy the quiet.